Today we're breaking down the systems that cause the most stress during inspections: electrical, plumbing, and HVACs. Can you ask the seller to replace it just because it's old?
I mean, you can ask the seller to do probably anything. However,
Should you?
making valid requests is another thing. But also, like, if it is functioning, it's functioning, and home warranties can help you with that for when it does, eventually die. Thanks again for joining us here at Hoosier Homes and Hustles. I'm Jessica, aka Miss Indianapolis Real Estate, and this is another episode of Don't Panic, It's an Inspection.
And I'm Stacy. Today we have John Carrothers with Pillar to Post back to help explain what truly matters and what doesn't need to cause panic.
Thanks for coming back, John.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's get started. Knob and tube and aluminum wiring, deal breakers or not?
No, I think they're definitely not deal breakers. They are probably the two most serious electrical things that we come across. Potentially very different solutions. Knob and tube needs to be replaced, period. Aluminum wiring can be repaired properly, can be made safe. It's just that sometimes the labor cost versus material cost, what makes the most sense on any given house might vary.
All right, what about HVAC age versus performance? What really matters there?
How well the system is performing really is the most important thing. Nothing lasts forever, and being aware of that as a homeowner is important. And these are, of course, very expensive systems to maintain and replace. Really depends on the system. There are some different things, but when we're talking about, standard furnace or heat pump, air conditioning type setups that most houses have, it really is about good maintenance and good function.
I bought a house one time that had a 20-year-old system, and I got the home warranty. I'm like, surely this thing is going to die. And it lasted for like 5 more years. So
Yeah.
I do think if it's been maintained, it doesn't necessarily mean don't buy this house.
Right. I feel like some of those older units actually last longer
Work better,
than some
yeah.
of the newer units. So I would use
Agreed.
those till they die. Yeah, have home warranty. Make sure you have some savings for when things do die. But yeah, sometimes they last a little longer than you think.
Yeah, and you really do have to remember that any product is going to have an expected lifespan. And in that data set, there are going to be individual systems that fail on the early side, and there's going to be ones that last a lot longer that none of us could do anything to affect how that's going to be. Typically, the older systems that we see still in existence are the ones that were doing that, which kind of colors our opinion of these a little bit. But that can almost always be a true statement that sometimes the older ones that are still kicking are the better ones, but that just comes down to manufacturing tolerances sometimes.
Yeah, so I don't know that we have that in here, but I was going to say on the expected life, sometimes I'll have buyers that if it's over its expected life, they want to ask for a new one, but it's working just fine. So, Jessica, how do you handle that when it works? Can you ask the
Yeah.
seller to replace it just because it's old?
I mean, you can ask the seller to do probably anything. However,
Should you?
making valid requests is another thing. But also, like, if it is functioning, it's functioning, and home warranties can help you with that for when it does, eventually die. So also, is the seller really going to spend money on replacing this unit if it can still perform? Yeah, I would think it just makes a lot more sense to have that home warranty and let it kind of ride.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We tell customers all the time that it doesn't matter to us who does what. So I don't care whether it's something that, a buyer, asks a seller to do, or whether it's something they plan on doing. But when we get into older systems, the due diligence can be really, really helpful too. Getting a heating and cooling person out to, just help with that affirmation that, yeah, things are fine. This is old, but it's working. And good trades, whether it be electricians, plumbers, heating and cooling, the really good ones are good at understanding that this isn't an opportunity to upsell something because it's a transaction. It's an opportunity to build a long-term customer. And those are the people that can really, really help a lot in this stage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So how often systems look bad but function fine? How often do you think that happens?
When it comes to heating and cooling systems, our AC condensers, they're on the outside of the house. They get a lot of sun damage, that visual wear and tear that really is not necessarily indicative of any actual issues. Furnaces, on the other hand, that are dirty and gross tend to indicate a lack of maintenance. So an old furnace that's just squeaky clean is usually a really good sign, not as indicative when they're outside.
All right. So based on what we've discussed, what should buyers know? They definitely should know it is whatever comes up on that inspection regarding electrical, HVAC, we will get quotes for that and determine, what actually needs to be done. Having a couple of different vendors coming out and giving us their opinion on something if it is towards the end of its life, because one vendor could come out and say, maybe they are trying to upsell you, right? So you want a couple of options there. But again, having some folks come out, get quotes, truly know what's wrong with it, what needs to be fixed, if anything, and then next steps will be based upon that information.
And what sellers should do, I feel like before listing or before the inspection, either one, have someone come out and do a tune-up on your HVAC and have your water heater drained and serviced. I feel like those two things are not going to hurt. They're pretty inexpensive to do. Save your receipts just so the buyer knows it's been maintained, it's been serviced recently. And I think that helps them feel more confident. Again, if it comes back and it is on the older side towards the end of the useful life, at least someone's been looking at this system. Okay, John, so now we have some rapid fire questions for you. What is the most common system buyers panic over unnecessarily?
The most common thing that I think people worry about unnecessarily is going to be the furnace and air conditioning. They're pretty robust. They last a long time. It's hard to predict when things are going to fail, and it really does end up being a normal maintenance thing.
Yeah. And again, if they're panicking, as an agent, I always recommend a home warranty. And, maybe we negotiate the seller pays for it if it is at the end of the useful life, but there's really no need to panic over that. So, do you have any stories, I'm sure you do, about the oldest system you've seen that was still kicking?
Nothing really surprises me anymore. So I probably don't remember some of the older ones that we've seen, but I've seen some really, really old boilers from like the 1940s and 50s that
Wow.
are still working.
Okay. I don't know that I've seen that. So that's interesting.
Yeah. And
Um,
it's kind of an oddity, but boilers really can last a really long time.
okay. What is the cheapest system fix that saves deals?
Preventative maintenance is everything. Documented preventative maintenance.
Love it.
Awesome. All right.
So big systems can feel intimidating, but understanding how inspectors evaluate them can really take the fear out of the process.
If this breakdown helped you feel more confident, please like, subscribe, and follow the podcast. It helps more buyers and sellers find us. And as always, our contact info is in the show notes.
Let's hustle smarter
Together.